where he lays out intel I'm very familiar with that I promise you is very real about deep state activities. And I don't care what you call it. Again, I can't say it enough. If that term bothers you, I really don't care. Use whatever term you want. The corrupted state, the bureaucracy, the swamp, whatever, I don't care. He laid out to you last night evidence over the past year we've been working our asses off on. And corrupted media types are just there, oh, Trump's lying. Listen to me, I'm really trying to control the expletives. That's bullshit. That is bullshit. Call me whatever you want. Do not call me a freaking liar. I lived it. I saw it. You're calling him a liar. You're calling me a liar too because I lived it. I've been asked, I don't know, 10,000 times in digital format. What about that tweet you put out that time about how the Republic basically can't survive what I saw here? Is it starting to make sense now? Folks, there was an organized internal government effort between intelligence community actors, law enforcement actors, DNI actors to just destroy President Trump completely. By the way, by whatever means necessary. This is the tweet. This is after reading another document that he may address in the future, but it's not my role to do it. It's his. I didn't win the presidency. Said, during my tenure here as your deputy, I've relayed to you things that are happening that might not be immediately visible, but they are happening. It's not my job to tell you about things that I don't have the power to declassify. I did not win the presidency, but it was my job to warn you. The director and I are committed to stamping out public corruption and weaponization. Law enforcement intel, it's a priority for us. Here's the key line. But what I've learned in the course of our properly predicated and necessary investigations into these aforementioned matters has shocked me down to my core. We can't run a republic like this. I'll never be the same after learning what I've learned. I didn't send that tweet out for any other reason other than I wanted it on the record just how deep the deep state, the swamp, whatever you choose to call it was. I know we're going to conduct these righteous and proper investigations by the book in accordance with the law. We're going to get the answers we all deserve. As with any investigation, I can't predict where it'll land, but I can promise you an honest and dignified effort at the truth. Not my truth or your truth, but the truth. God bless America and all those who defend her. Respectfully, Dan. Folks, the burn bags, the use of FBI communication systems to discuss, shadow governments, keeping information from the president, the Russia hoax, the efforts to protect leaders at the top, even though a lot of people knew they were corrupt. We walked into a hornet's nest. After last night, I'm telling you, I've never been prouder of what the Trump administration in total did over the first year. Folks, I know a lot of you will say and criticize a lot of our decisions early on because you wanted a good guy, bad guy story. And what I was trying to explain to people is that in law enforcement, intel, and especially when trying to dismantle an operation, a deep state operation that had been going on for decades. It wasn't new when we got there. It had been going on for decades. Through the entire Trump first term, people hid themselves like ticks. That good guys and bad guys don't present themselves as good guys and bad guys. Listen to me, I can't say this enough. A lot of the bullshit doomer critics, who most of them aren't even authentic or genuine, they're probably being financed to do all this, to just destroy the MAGA movement's credibility from the inside. However, some people just don't know. When you're trying to get John Gotti, for those of you who don't know, John Gotti is he's since passed, but mobster, huge case, many of you remember. You don't go to a nunnery. Do you get where I'm going with this? You don't go to a nunnery and say, Sister Mary, Do you know Mobster John Gotti? Why would I know Mobster John? They can't help you. You have to go to people like Sammy the Bull. Not a good guy, but bad guys have information about other bad guys. So when people would ask questions like, why didn't X happen? I couldn't tell you. But I just hope it makes more sense now why some decisions were made quickly and some a little more slowly. The communications you saw that were put out there last night, whitehouse.gov, and in the president's speech from those FBI systems, those did not surface the day we got there. There were a lot of people, and a lot of decisions have been made about that, and not good for them, by the way. And there's investigations, by the way, still ongoing. There were a lot of people who wanted to make that stuff go away. And it took a lot of, but that doesn't sound right. Try again. Before someone finally came in, knocked on the door and said, I think we found it. That's what happened with the burn bags. That's what happened with a lot of these communications. This deep state stuff is real. It's not a conspiracy theory. The president's not crazy. And I know there are a lot of Republicans out there from the more moderate establishment wing of the party that say, hey, there's an election coming up. We need to talk about, affordability. And I get it. The economy, it's the economy, stupid, is real. I understand that. But folks, I don't think the people saying that really understand the base and the listeners to this. We're 10 minutes in. We got 46,000 people here. Who the hell's drawing that at a campaign rally? The answer is we are. We're not even 15 minutes into the show. This is the base. They are extremely concerned about this. Do not gaff this off. I think I've been very level-headed about it. I've had to tell people a lot of things they didn't want to hear about why things didn't happen quicker, why certain people who were bad guys were here and not there. Let's get into some details so it makes a little bit more sense. I'm telling you, this is why I've been so passionate about be careful where you're getting your information. This information warfare against your mind to try and destroy the United States is very real. I've read it. I've seen it. The president discussed it last night. China funding a lot of these organizations. You thought this was organic, generic? It's all AstroTurf. And second, the SAVE Act. Now do you see why we need voter ID? Do you see how easy it's going to be in the future with AI and the theft of massive data sets to go and not only manipulate voters, but potentially register for them if you find out they're in a nursing home or something like that? Now does it make sense why the president, his administration, the FBI, CIA, his DNI now are acting or so concerned? Here's President Trump last night talking about it. And it was amazing to see some, liberal media lunatics play this down. Some voter rolls you can access. And we didn't put them out there for China to go and manipulate them for nefarious purposes. Are you guys knuckleheads? If this was any other country on earth, like Russia, you'd lose your mind. President Trump said this last night about voter rolls in China. Extremely concerning, and that may be understatement of the millennia. Check this out.
They show that over a period of years, starting during the 2020 election cycle, the People's Republic of China carried out what is believed to be the largest compromise of election data in history, resulting in China's illicit acquisition of 220 million U.S. voter files. That information includes names, addresses, phone numbers, political party preferences, and other sensitive data that would be needed to register to vote and engage in other nefarious activities, which is exactly what was happening. This data loss presents an unprecedented election security nightmare. The intelligence even shows that China has signed a data exploitation unit specifically to this new project. Compounding the travesty, the second set of documents we are releasing reveals that members of the deep state, very, very famous group of people, in many cases, in our intelligence agency worked to actively suppress and downplay information about the extent of China's sinister election meddling, covering it up from both the president and the American people like nobody thought was possible.
So let me tie together what the president said into a bullet point storyline. The president brings up a few things there: election meddling, the deep state, and efforts to hide information from him, which is kind of deep state 2.1. Folks, there are numerous internal FBI communications which we found and many people tried to hide. We wouldn't let it go, about internal actors in the FBI who very serious things are going on with this case that I'm not at liberty to discuss. It's the president's job to declassify. It's not mine. It's not my job to sit here and try to stir you up for clicks. When he's ready to discuss what's going on with the ongoing investigations, he'll tell people to do it. But some of it, we don't want to jeopardize what's going on. It took a long time to find this stuff. What happened was there were certain field offices of the FBI that had information about China, and they're unquestioned. It's tell me the president's lying, I'm going to laugh in your face. China's unquestioned by any rational actor who was involved. Their unquestioned efforts to manipulate public opinion on everything from elections to elsewhere. It's a real thing. There were certain field offices that had information. Now, I said to you before, there were a lot of people in the FBI, it wasn't a small group, who were very concerned about this stuff. And there's email trails of them saying, hey, this is really serious stuff. The problem was the prior leadership of the FBI had already gone up to Capitol Hill and said, hey, we don't really have any strong evidence about that. And meanwhile, when we did our homework and started digging, we're like, what are you talking about? This guy right here is objecting strongly to that statement at their own expense, by the way. Imagine what it's like contradicting FBI leadership and the prior director about a foreign meddling thing. So when President Trump says there's a deep state, he's tying together various storylines that are all accurate. There was a deep state effort where there's the grand conspiracy ongoing investigation going on right now between leadership of the IC, intelligence community, and the FBI to take down President Trump using any means necessary. The Russia hoax was just a small component of a larger operation to get rid of this guy and to hide from him information. China will meddle in anything, public opinion, elections, to screw us up from the inside. There are other storylines here, but he provided to you hard evidence last night that there was a coordinated internal effort uncovered over the last year. It took a long time to build. It's not going to be all dismantled overnight because there's a process. We're not the Secretary of War. We can't just go in and start bombing people. It's not how this whole process works. The burn bags that were found. There's two possible explanations. One, they just forgot to burn the material. President Trump mentioned it last night. That was the material I had read that led to that tweet. When the president's ready to disclose more, they can. It's not my job to do that. But it's pretty devastating about the Russia hoax. There's two explanations. Someone just forgot to burn it, or someone left it there on purpose for someone to find. I'm not sure which one is true. I lean towards the latter only because when it came to the information about China, potentially interfering in our elections and public opinion, there were people there on the record at great expense to themselves objected in writing about how leadership was handling this. Which leads me to believe there were some people like, hey man, I don't know if it has out of goodwill or just trying to preserve their own integrity. I don't know. I can't get in their heads. But there were people who left breadcrumbs. You had the burn bags. You had this FBI systems traffic about, we're running a shadow government. I'm not sure, if they thought we couldn't find this or if they thought it was buried. Here's the thing you probably don't know about FBI communication systems. And none of this is classified, but there are various, it's probably pretty common sense. but it's not something you'd follow every day. There are various, it's not just one email system in the FBI. There's many based on the classification of the information. You know, if you're sending someone a weather report because they're going to do it, you don't need to put that on a classified system. The weather's not classified. So you don't want to waste and clog up a classified system. I'm not at liberty to say with or anything like. I'm just telling you there's different levels of classification. I think there were some people in there who really thought that this stuff would never be found. And it was, despite efforts by a lot of people, some to leave breadcrumbs, some to just come out and say it, hey, look here. But others to say, oh, there's nothing there to see. So you have comms on the FBI system, the burn bag, you have the Russia hoax, you have Christopher Wray and the leadership and other prior deep state actors who were clearly trying to hide information from the president while trying to set him up on the Russia hoax. You can deny it all you want. Trump is lying. You're full of shit. You're lying. You're going to look stupid when all this stuff comes out over time. Now, on the China angle, folks, again, now do you see why I'm constantly warning you about information warfare? How not everything you're reading online is real in the sense that it's motivated by people's genuine convictions? There are a lot of puppet master foreign governments out there working through third-party companies and elsewhere, desperate to manipulate you into believing things that aren't true. I saw it. It is the most illuminating experience of my life, seeing from the inside what's actually happening versus what's going on in the Twitter ecosystem. And people saying, you can see it. You can make the connection. They will do this. 5 days later, you see an X tweet from someone who's supposedly one of us about exactly that. And now why I'm so passionate about the SAVE Act. Here's why. I want you to listen to an excellent clip from a really fantastic reporter. Catherine Herridge does amazing work. She was on, I think it was News Nation with Katie Pavlich. Here she is explaining how don't bury the lead. This is not just about election interference, huge component of it. It's about deep state efforts to hide foreign propaganda operations and about China's ability in the information warfare era to use their AI, quantum computing, whatever, to basically compile a dossier, I use that word intentionally, on you to hit you with information, maybe register in your name to vote. She really did a great job with this. Check this out.
China is one of the biggest collectors of data on the planet. So if you take that 220 million voter rolls and you combine it with something called the SF-86, those are the security clearance applications that were compromised back in 2015, 22 million files. And then you combine it with all of the health information that's been hacked, you can really build this kind of digital composite of an individual. And you can use that for, voter registration fraud. You can use that for identity theft. And significantly, you can also use it to recruit American citizens to your efforts. So it's not just about the collection of the data around the vote. Exactly. Right.
Folks, Catherine Herridge is an actual journalist. She is not biased. She's shown no evidence of bias. I don't even know her party. And we were colleagues at Fox. I mean, we didn't hang out or anything. But I don't think anybody knew what political party she was. And that's kind of like a badge of honor if you're a real journalist, correct? She has no political dog in the fight. She's telling you what I've been telling you. Are we both lying? There is an information warfare effort going on, a global propaganda effort. Before the speech, I used this term yesterday. I didn't even coordinate it. I wasn't like something I called, what do I say? It's been on my mind. There is a global propaganda effort using real information, OPM records, background check stuff. We don't even know the extent of how deep China has infiltrated our information ecosystem. If there is a safe of information on every American, Justin, his healthcare records, college records, all of his ex posts and DMs, folks, I can't tell you with a straight face, I know how much of that China and other actors have. But I can tell you, if they do have what I think they may have, they have a profile on Justin better than his mom and dad does. And I'm not kidding. You're being hit with stuff every single day that you think is genuine, that turns you in a direction you're probably not comfortable with. You feel like there's a magnetic pull, but you know there's something wrong? There is. There is. You notice it in other cases as well, where you're like, we have this storyline like subject X is a left-wing violent guy and he did this. And all of a sudden another storyline emerges that no, it's the Trump administration. The Trump administration's hiding information. You don't think that's weird? You don't think that's strange that the Trump administration has figured out left-wing violent actor did this or is a suspect in this, and immediately a narrative emerges on a parallel track. No, it's not the left-wing violent guy. It's someone else. It's Snoopy or Garfield. And you're like, you don't think that's weird? Just go look at any big news story cracked open on the law enforcement or intel side during the first year of the Trump administration. And notice how immediately a parallel narrative distracting you from the left and the real actors developed right away. There's big investigations, prosecutions, and convictions on Antifa, BLM, the SPLC, others. And all of a sudden, there's a narrative developing. Hey, man, nothing's happening. We got to get rid of all these guys. And people fell for it. You don't think that's strange? You think the president's making it up last night? This is why the left is freaking out too, folks. I got to take a quick break, but I want to get to this immediately after a short break for you here. Folks, the left-wing media, and all of these goofballs out there on the left-wing X and Blue Sky and elsewhere, they hated the speech last night. Here's the kicker, though. Many of them hated the speech before they even heard it. No, I'm not kidding. I'll play for you a clip of what I'm talking about. And folks, I want to be clear about this. I use the word hated, but I'm being sarcastic. The left didn't hate the speech. They didn't. Of course they didn't. No, they didn't. They were scared of the speech. There's a difference. They were scared of the speech because all of those documents that the president put out there on the website are real. It took us a couple months to find them and dig through them. We needed to go through a lot of Sammy the Bulls to get to John Gotti. And then we took care of the Sammy the Bulls too. It took a long time to find them, but they're real. You deny them at the expense of your own credibility, not ours. All right, quick break, and I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. They were terrified of this speech. And I thank you, President Trump. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for putting that out there and letting the American people see, finally, what a lot of. Don't get confused. Maybe I'm playing a little bit of word games. I don't know. The left hated the speech, clearly, but they hated it because they were scared of it. Because everything the president said last night about the don't bury the lead, this deep state operation to dismantle the Trump government, not the government. They didn't want to dismantle the guy. They love big government. They wanted to dismantle the Trump government, is very real. Here's Chuck Schumer yesterday critiquing the speech before it even happened. Check this out.
Mr. President, Donald Trump's election speech tonight is not about the election Trump lost 6 years ago. It is a threat against the election he is afraid to lose this November. Trump may control the microphone tonight, but he will not control the verdict in November. The voters will have the last word, and Senate Democrats will rebut Trump's lies every day.
They're amazing, guy. How do you know they're lies? You didn't even hear what he said. Are you guys lawyers? Like, no. Justin's like, what do you mean? I'm like 18. Imagine, I want to cross-examine the witness. We haven't called him yet. I want to cross-examine his testimony. It hasn't happened. How do you know what he said was what part? Ask Chuck Schumer. You know those folks that go up to Capitol Hill? That guy, what's his name? Ben and others. They go up to Capitol Hill and they just do like man on the streets. They're always cool about it. Like, just ask Chuck Schumer. What specifically did he say last night that was a lie? The burn bags? We found them. I was there. Call me a liar, and I'll laugh in your freaking face. We were there. We found it. There were multiple witnesses to this. Yes, the room was, I don't want to say hidden. I mean, if the room was real, hidden like some magician, like, oh, voila, here's the room. But nobody said anything about this room. Nobody. It wasn't a place where you would typically put that type of material in a burn bag. There were breadcrumbs left. The thing about the intelligence report about China, that's a real intelligence report. You can look it up. The internal FBI comms, I don't think anybody thought would go public, that we found about the shadow government. That's real. You can look it up. Where's the lie? The fact that China was engaged in intel ops to politically manipulate the country, what part of that's a lie? You can look it up, just like you can look up anything. But this, again, is another example of stupid shit liberals think. Because they hear it from Chuck Schumer. That's a lie. It didn't happen. You can go look it up. I can't declassify it. Thank you, Mr. President, for doing it. Because it is the most frustrating experience of your life to live this every single day. Someone knocking on the door every 10 minutes. Found something else. Found something else. And then people out there going, well, I don't see anything happen. And folks, it's not even close to done. Anyone telling you that is lying. And the leftist freakout's going to continue. You've already seen in the public domain what's happening in Georgia and elsewhere. Believe the doomers and grifters and influence ops at your own expense. You're being manipulated to enrage you against the administration you voted for. Why do you think he did the speech last night? To hide the stuff? And to the left-wing media clowns and goons, Trump is lying. First, it's imperative that you explain to us exactly what the president is lying about. You can't just throw that out there. I noticed, what was it, Playbook or Axios or one of those email lists this morning. They were like, the president reiterated false claim. What false claims? Like, tell us what, because we can easily rebut what you're saying. Meanwhile, there's real false claims out there. That was the genesis of that tweet I put out from my FBI account, how we can't run a freaking republic like this. The real false claims were by some of the same deep state actors hiding the China op from President Trump, who were more than happy to leak to the media about a fake Russian hoax operation and a pee-pee tape Donald Trump was in that didn't even exist. You don't want to talk about election manipulation and public opinion manipulation by foreign actors when Trump says it, but when it's a conspiracy theory generated by people who were actually part of the deep state, who have now been called out last night, and who are not going to get away with this in the sense they're just going to walk off, you didn't care at all. Who would I put this out there? Is this Taibbi? This video? I got to give proper attribution. I saw this on X this morning. Here's kind of a quick jump cut video of the left-wing media more than happy to entertain bullshit conspiracy theories about the 2016 stolen election by the Russians when it suited their political needs. Now he produces evidence of actual foreign interference and you want to ignore it. It's unbelievable. Check this out.
He's an illegitimate president. He's an illegitimate president. Pretending to be president.
Why do you think the president is going to such great lengths to essentially prove that he beat you?
Because he didn't.
1/3 of Clinton supporters say Trump election is not legitimate.
I think he's an illegitimate president that didn't really win.
You are absolutely right.
You can run the best campaign. You can even become the nominee. And you can have the election stolen from you.
The 2016 election was stolen. Got a nicer way to say that?
Say Russia hacked the election.
Russia hacked our election.
Russia hacked our elections.
A little louder, please.
Russia hacked our election. That was a 9/11 scale event.
This was a kind of cyber 9/11. American institutions. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm looking for a comment here because it'll show you exactly. It's in the chat. And I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. How this is like, by the way, I think that's TK who did that. I'm sorry. I'm trying to what was the Twitter account who put it out there? the Wake Inc., so you can check that out. Someone in the chat, I don't want to spend too much time on it, but said something like, holy goy, nobody cares about this. It's an anti-Israel thing. What do you even, you get what's going on here? You think that comment's genuine? This has nothing to do with Israel at all. Right. That it's not important. But you can't talk about it, though. You can't. There's all they talk about, but you can't talk about that. This is what I'm talking about. Folks, I have never, ever in my life, a podcast to stand here, right? It's an island shaped like a microphone. This is why I've been telling you, I hope it makes sense. The SAVE Act, you don't get the SAVE Act going forward, and you're not careful about information warfare and where you're getting your information going forward. Folks, we're done. We're finished. There is no republic. I'm telling you with the purest of intentions. I've never been prouder of the body of work we put together. You would have never found this stuff if we just accepted the first answer and didn't ask why. Go again. Do it again. Run it again. Run it again. Oh, look what we found. And this is just, I hate cliches, but a huge iceberg, it's just the top. We will never have a country if we can't agree on using compass true north and logic and reason to get to an answer. The country's finished. That's what Yuri Bezmenov, the KGB defector, warned us about. The pollution of the information environment that creates such a grave situation that nobody believes anything anymore. People believe increasingly crazy things.